I'm Grant Ellis, by the way. I'm 41 years old and work as a logistics consultant near Columbus, Ohio. My job keeps me pretty busy, but my nights used to be free and meaningful when home felt like a welcoming place. Lately, though, it's more like a waiting room, a place where I'm stuck, hoping for something that's been missing for a while. It started quietly, just a little here and there. You know how these things go, right? First, her phone seemed to go off more during dinner. Then she started sitting differently, with her back slightly turned, eyes locked on her phone, fingers flying like she was typing out secrets. Occasionally, I'd see names pop up. Nate, Jim. But I know how easy it is to change a name if someone's trying to hide something. Besides, my wife's never been into the gym anyway. She stopped inquiring about my day, and dinners turned into these long, awkward silences. She used to make fun of my spreadsheets and the way I obsess over cargo routes. Now she hardly noticed when I walked through the door. Her routine shifted as well. What used to be yoga on Tuesdays morphed into happy hours afterward. When I offered to join, she gave me a smile as if I'd missed the point entirely. 2 Saturdays in a row, she left early to meet friends and came back late. When I asked about it, she simply responded, "Which thing?" Her mind was somewhere else, or maybe with someone else. I tried shrugging it off. People drift sometimes, they fall into routines. But there was definitely something off in our conversations. When I asked about her day, she'd give me 1 or 2 word answers. When I suggested a quick getaway, just a weekend trip, she'd look at the table and mumble about timing. Even her laugh was different. It used to bubble up naturally when we watched stand-up on the couch. Now it appeared only during text exchanges I wasn't involved in. Watching her happiness from a distance hurt more than I expected it to. Then one Thursday, she walked in wearing a new dress, sleek and fitted. She breezed past me, talking on her phone, her heels sounding extra loud on our floor. I asked, "Got a date night?" She turned, seemingly surprised I was there. "Client dinner," she said. "It came up last minute." I nodded and acted like everything was normal. A week later, the situation escalated in the kitchen. Her phone buzzed while she was showering upstairs, and for a moment I held it, the screen lighting up with a message. "I miss the way you taste." It was from the same contact name, Nate, Jim. My hands froze and it felt like I'd walked into a room made entirely of lies and silence. But instead of reading more, I put the phone back down, backed away and stared out the window. Across the street, my neighbor watered his lawn, like life was still normal. That night I stayed awake, listening to her breathe as she slept. It was the same rhythm I'd memorized over the last 9 years. Same woman, but a changed soul. I remembered our late-night whispers meant to make each other laugh in the dark. Now, her side of the bed felt like it belonged on a different continent. The next morning highlighted even more differences. It wasn't just a lack of warmth, but an intentional chill. She'd take calls behind closed doors, and her phone's passcode was new. Even when she folded laundry, it seemed like she was rushing, not wanting to be near me more than needed. That's what betrayal looks like when it's masked as busyness. Instead of a big confrontation, I started tracking. Her calls, spending habits, new clothes tags being tossed out. I made digital copies of everything financial and had my paycheck rerouted to an account she couldn't touch. This wasn't about getting even, just being prepared. One afternoon, she accidentally left her planner on the kitchen counter. Curious, I sneaked a look at her schedule for the upcoming week. I spotted meeting for PM Hilton. Strange, I thought. That's not where her office usually meets, and this wasn't the first time I'd seen a mysterious Hilton entry. So I printed out each suspicious note, tucked them into a manila folder, and locked it in my desk. I wasn't about to confront her mid-lie. I decided to wait for the right moment when everything would come to light seamlessly. Last Saturday, she told me she needed space, mentioning she felt trapped. When I asked what she meant by that, she said she was missing that sense of being a bit lost, like she couldn't recognize herself anymore. I just nodded, didn't press her further. She looked at me, maybe hoping for more questions. That night, she lay in bed pretending to sleep. Meanwhile, I stretched out in the living room, the TV on mute casting a soft light on the walls. Our wedding photo still hung above the fireplace. Her smile in that picture seemed so sincere. So did mine. I stared at it for what felt like ages, trying to remember if we'd ever felt as happy as we looked. Yeah, something had changed in her, but I'd shifted too. I longed for the time when I didn't have to question where our love had gone. The next morning I kept quiet. I made breakfast, same routine, brewed her coffee. She barely noticed, but I did. Now every pause, every flimsy excuse, every time she reached for her phone felt significant. And in the widening silence between us, I realized something. I wouldn't be the guy asking what was wrong. I'd be the one deciding what comes next. Sunday morning arrived like a tradition neither of us believed in anymore. She shuffled into the kitchen wearing a hoodie that wasn't mine, calling it her cozy go-to. I'd seen it before at the gym parking lot on my way back from work. I didn't question breakfast. She scrolled through her phone like there was nothing to address. Her silence was anything but calming. It was loaded. We sat across from each other, forks clinking against plates, like two ghosts pretending to live. Our eyes didn't meet until I asked if she was still planning to visit her sister that afternoon. She canceled, threw the lie out like it was routine. I stayed quiet. That excuse had come up twice this month already. Later, she was ready. Tight jeans, flawless makeup, and heels meant for a night out, not a family visit. Running errands, she said, grabbing her purse. Might be out a while. I nodded. She paused at the door, glancing back, maybe waiting for me to ask something. When I didn't, she said, "You good?" I replied, "Better than expected." She paused ever so slightly, then left. I knew exactly where she was headed. The Hilton, room 301 woman. The reservation was under a name just close enough to hers to pass. I tracked her movements from my laptop. I'd set it all up weeks ago, the software discreetly installed as a shared security update. She never asked, likely too preoccupied with her double life. While she got deeper into her tangled web, I took action. Canceled a credit card we shared, set up notifications on another, moved utilities into my name. Slowly but surely, I was dismantling the bridge she was walking on. Past midnight, she walked back in, hair messy, lip gloss intact, eyes wide with pretend surprise at finding me still awake. "Long line at Target," she murmured, dropping her bag. I tilted my head and said, "Hope you found what you needed." She froze for a moment, then flashed a quick, forced smile. "Of course." I left the silence to linger until she went upstairs. The next morning, she had a forced cheerfulness about her. She made toast she never eats, chatted about the weather like she was resetting things. I let her talk. Amidst her chatter about a new gym class, she asked, "You okay? You've been really quiet lately." I looked up from my coffee and said, "Just thinking about next week." She blinked. "What's happening next week?" I stirred my coffee, letting the pause hang heavy. "A few changes." She waited, but I didn't elaborate. By midweek, her tone had shifted. She'd gone from friendly to dismissive. "Don't wait up tonight." It came across like a dare. "Wouldn't dream of it," I answered. She wasn't expecting that. She anticipated a confrontation, but I gave her space instead. That Thursday night, I noticed her suitcase had moved in the closet. It was something she never touched, signaling possibly her contemplating leaving or maybe testing me. So here's what went down, just like I thought. Friday rolled around, and the tension felt like a thick fog. She looked like she walked straight off a runway with layers of body spray and vivid lipstick. She casually mentioned she had a networking thing with her company. I threw her a grin. "Have a great time." She shot me a suspicious glance. "You're okay with it?" I just shrugged. Why wouldn't I be? She clearly had more to say, but nothing came out. Later that night, she strolled in around 2 a.m. I'd been sitting on the couch, lost in an old playoff game. She paused in the hallway, eyed me curiously. "You're up?" I turned the volume down. "Couldn't sleep." She shifted awkwardly. Feeling drained, I suggested we have a proper chat the next day and waved her off. "Get some sleep," I said, though I hardly rested myself. Oddly, I felt a sort of calm, like the moment before scoring a game winner. The next morning, I was out on the porch savoring my coffee while she was prepping for her usual make-believe yoga getaway. Same old story, off to the same spot, hotel and guy. I noticed as she dragged out that duffel bag, the one she swore she didn't own just weeks back. "Need a hand with your bags?" I asked, watching her like she was talking in tongues. "Nope, I'm good. Be back Sunday," she said, planting another fake smooch near my cheek before leaving. Little did she know, I'd already arranged with the building crew to change the locks and set things in motion for my lawyer to send her a separation agreement first thing Monday. Oblivious, she packed her bags for what turned out to be her final exit from our place. She was blind to all the signs. To her, my quiet was defeat, my patience a joke. Oh, she got it all wrong. Every time I kept quiet, every snide comment I let slide, every lie I caught, it was all part of my plan. By Sunday, I didn't stick around waiting. I took all the paperwork to my lawyer's office first thing in the morning. Let her be confused. I wasn't the one under pressure here. When she finally came back late that Sunday, she was all spruced up, hair perfectly done, and expensive perfume soaking her sweater. It seemed like the weekend away washed over the mess she acted like wasn't there. I was there, sipping bourbon by the kitchen counter with a manila folder right in front. She acted like everything was peachy. Traffic was insane, she said, dropping her bag at the door. She was about to say something about a shower when I cut in. Tell him you'll have time next week. I'll take care of the legal end. She froze, keys dangling in shock. Hold on, what? I put the bourbon down and slid the folder her way on the countertop. Inside, everything was laid out, all signed, every detail. It's a separation agreement. Give it a read tonight. I'm sending it over to the lawyer tomorrow, I told her. She edged closer, like that could somehow change things. Grant, what's happening? She asked. I met her gaze. This happens when you mistake my silence for any kind of approval. Her breathing hitched as the reality hit her. She believed she had the upper hand, that I'd just take her actions silently, that my silence meant agreement. What are you saying? She pressed, her voice a mix of shaky and forced calm. I pointed at the folder. We've barely been a couple for months. You swapped us for secrets. Intimacy became illusions. Honesty was replaced by drama. She opened the folder, her hands visibly trembling. It all laid out. The way we'd divide everything, how to handle the money, the debts, all spelled out clearly. She sifted through the pages slowly. This is for real, she muttered, more to herself. I nodded. It's been a long time coming. She scanned through, probably expecting anger or revenge. She wouldn't find that. All emotions were stripped from those papers because they'd long faded from our marriage the moment she invested them elsewhere. She let out a breath, leaning back against the counter. Are we actually doing this? She asked, whispering. I thought maybe we could talk. You had months to talk, I replied. You chose silence, weekends with him, so I'm choosing this. Her gaze dropped. I didn't know you knew, she admitted quietly. That was your oversight, I replied, walking up the stairs. Her voice drifted after me. Why are you deciding now? Why this week? She questioned. I hesitated on the stairs, replying, because even clarity has its limits. That night she tried to find solace on the couch but couldn't sleep and got up to shuffle through papers around 2 a.m. Sometimes she paused outside our bedroom door. By morning, rain fell from a gray sky. I poured coffee, managed a work delivery, and opened an email from my lawyer confirming he got the signed documents. She walked in, wearing yesterday's clothes, makeup streaked under her eyes. Can we talk? She murmured, sounding beaten. I sipped my coffee, saying, I've said all I need to. She sat at our table, the one we've shared for 9 years. So this is the end, she said. You asked that last month when you felt trapped, and I didn't have an answer for you then, I reminded her. That's not what I meant, she tried to clarify. Just stop thinking it over. My mind was made up. She wiped her tears. He's not who you thought either. It's over. I tilted my head, but you lied, still picked him, and went back. Her hand flew to her mouth. Regret hung in the air like a heavy mist. It didn't change the damage done. Confessions don't repair, they just shift the situation. I was lost, she whispered. You made a choice, I responded. Silence fell. I'm not here to fight, I told her. This isn't revenge. It's freedom for us both. You really believe that? She asked, her voice shaking. Tears welled up, but I kept my eyes on her. She'd made her decision, and now she faced mine. That day at work, I felt lighter than I had in ages. Meetings made more sense. My mind was sharper. The ring on my finger felt foreign, and I slipped it into a drawer. That night she texted, asking if we could delay the decision just one more week. My reply was brief. You've got until Friday. After that, it's final. 3 nights later at dinner, she broke down, suggesting therapy, a trip, anything to make it right. Erase photos, accounts, even connections. She clutched the divorce papers as if they were saving her, studying them like she'd been given a test. She hung around in the mornings more, started making me coffee again, but it was too late. One evening she whispered, "You used to fight for us." I looked at her. I did, but it felt like I was swinging alone. Friday passed without a word. She left the signed papers on the counter before going to work. No tears, no more battles, just a finished line. After months of pretending the picture was still missing a piece, by the end of the week, I gave everything to my lawyer. She hadn't moved out, but the atmosphere changed. Her presence wasn't central anymore. It was like a temporary arrangement, and we both sensed it. Monday morning came, and she was still there, but it all felt different. She moved silently around, not like she owned the space. Her laughter was gone, leaving quiet moments, interrupted by conversations that felt forced. She offered to make breakfast. I declined politely. She lingered in front of the fridge, waiting for a reaction that never came. As I left for work, her "have a good day" felt awkward, overdue. That evening, I returned to find her on the couch, candles lit, with our first date movie cued, an attempt to rewind the clock. She patted the space next to her, but I stood firm. "Do you really want to pretend?" I asked. She hesitated, caught between speaking or retreating. "I thought we might talk," she offered. I nodded. The paperwork had already said everything. The very next day, she decided to take a different approach and messaged me a playful selfie straight from her office. Her lipstick was perfect, and she added a cheeky caption. "Recognize this color?" I looked at it for a solid minute before putting my phone down. The quiet that followed felt heavier than any fight we'd ever had. By midweek, it was clear she was starting to panic. She intercepted me on my way to work, and with a hint of desperation suggested, "Why don't we just take a break instead of heading for a split?" I adjusted my tie and stepped aside. "You've already been on that break," I told her. "I'm just sealing the deal." That evening, her best friend rang me up, her voice tight with concern. "She's falling apart," she said. "Keeps muttering she never thought it would end like this." I listened but didn't offer comfort. "Wishing doesn't change the facts," I replied, and hung up. Soon I got messages from other folks. Her brother shot me a quick text. "Everything okay with you two?" I responded, "We're sorting things out." Her mom left a voicemail. I didn't return the call. Even her colleagues gave me odd stares when I dropped by her office for some documents. Another friend reached out, hinting she'd been seeing someone else. I neither confirmed nor denied. People can figure out the truth on their own. By Thursday, she was falling apart. She showed up at my office without warning, somehow slipping past security. My assistant looked uncomfortable, muttering, "She says it's urgent." She walked in as if she still belonged there. "We can fix this," she said softly, tears brimming in her eyes. "Counseling, a fresh start, erase the past." I sat back unfazed. "You're offering a fix after what you did?" I asked. "This isn't fixing. It's fear." She crumbled, realizing she'd screwed up, and I just nodded. "Now you're living in what we both created." She reached out, her hand trembling, but I wasn't there to take it. Eventually, she left. On Friday, she was halfway through packing up when I got home. She seemed to take her time, gently putting things into a suitcase that lay open on the bed, like it had to confess something itself. When I entered, she paused and looked at me, searching for forgiveness. "I'm going to stay with my sister for a while," she said, trying to sound hopeful. "Maybe a break will help." I raised an eyebrow. "Help who?" I asked. She lowered her gaze. Before leaving, she wandered through the house like a stranger in a memory lane. She stopped at our wedding photo, touched the frame lightly, probably for the last time. "You used to love this picture," she muttered. I glanced at it. "I used to love the person beside me," I replied. Her jaw clenched and she murmured, her voice fading. "I thought I had more time," she admitted. "You spent your time elsewhere," I countered. She hesitated for a second, searching for some kindness in me, but I stayed distant. Without saying more, she left. Throughout the weekend, her calls came in frequently. I let them all go to voicemail. Her final message was long, mixed with pleas and revised narratives. "I didn't sleep with him the first night," she insisted. as if that mattered now. I listened once and then deleted it. Sunday passed, leaving no trace of her. Monday brought the final signed divorce papers, confirmed delivered by my lawyer. A neighbor mentioned seeing her wandering the next day looking lost. I thanked them and moved on. The guy she spent her weekends with? Vanished the moment divorce was mentioned. She reached out to a friend who promptly blocked her. Her safety net vanished, leaving her stranded. Her admirers quietly queried, "What really happened between you two?" She seemed content. I offered no insight, just a simple, "Things came to light." Her attempts to rally support yielded little. Sympathy shifted when people saw her sitting alone, nursing a coffee where we once sat together. She attempted one last gesture, posting an old photo of us, tagging it with vague words about healing. Comments were sparse. "Hope you're okay," one friend wrote. Another just said, "Wow." The post disappeared that evening. Each action was a delayed reaction to a truth she undervalued. She thought I'd falter, expecting an open display of sorrow. She thought she'd walk into a fight, but instead she found herself up against a well-thought-out reaction. What she faced was the rippling effect of losing a guy who had given her every opportunity to stay, never begging once she decided to leave. No drama ensued, just clear, methodical actions. 2 weeks after signing the last document, the quiet in my house shifted from loneliness to a sense of calm. I relocated my things to the guest room for a bit, even after she had moved out. It was my quiet way of taking back some territory. Eventually, I tackled the main bedroom with a garbage bag in hand, purging her side of the bed of odds and ends. Photos, lotions, a broken phone charger, all reminders from a life that had ended well before our marriage did. When that drawer closed, it was mine alone again. Without fuss, I went about changing the locks, starting with one. By Sunday, paintbrush in hand, I covered the living room walls in a neutral tone. She had a flair for bold colors, always saying they were invigorating. I was drawn to something more subtle, a color that suggested steadiness, a place where you could just be. Midweek, her mail stopped appearing in the mailbox. Even the postal service seemed to understand. By Friday, I had my last meeting with my lawyer. Together, we wrapped up dividing assets, sorting out insurance, and closing joint accounts. He handed over a manila folder. "That's everything," he said, and I nodded, signing my name with certainty. That night, I drove past her gym. There was her car, parked next to a silver sedan that had become all too familiar to me. I didn't stop. Later, she messaged me. "Saw your car tonight," she texted. "Thought maybe you'd come to say something." I typed a single word, then erased it. I sent back, "There's nothing more to discuss." And that was it. After I hung up, I stepped outside for a walk. The air had turned cool, a breeze swaying the trees. Even the sidewalk seemed lighter, as if the weight of misplaced dreams had finally lifted. I found myself at a diner we used to avoid because she didn't care for it. Sitting at the counter with a plate of eggs and a cup of black coffee, the waitress's smile made me feel at home. The following week, I updated my emergency contact information, deleted our wedding playlist from my phone, and canceled the cloud service we shared. By the end of the week, she reached out again, this time with a voice memo. It was longer, filled with nostalgia. She talked about when we laughed so hard it hurt, the time I surprised her with coffee for her promotion, and those days I stood by her during her father's illness. "I miss who we used to be," she murmured, and her silence echoed louder than anything else. I saved the message, knowing it was a testament to clarity. She didn't harbor bad intentions, just carelessness. She mistook our history for vulnerability, misunderstanding the boundaries of love. She realized too late that sticking around isn't always about staying put. Her cousin rang a few days later, said she had moved back with her mom, went on long walks, cried frequently, and mostly kept company with her solitude. I listened, not giving anything away. She'd found her independence, yet she faced it alone with only her memories. I don't check in on her social media or ask shared acquaintances about her. I learned that closure isn't something you can demand. Life filled back up with work, lifting weights, and enjoying Saturday nights with a glass of bourbon, enveloped in soft jazz. I joined a volunteer team at a local shelter. Helping rebuild felt aligned with where I was. I kept that manila folder in a drawer with my passport, a reminder of the choices I'd honored and the self I'd reclaimed. 3 weeks down the line, she made a final attempt, a text offering to talk if I felt like it. I left it unanswered. She'd had the chance to talk but chose not to, picked someone else when I was always there with open arms. This wasn't about payback. It was about finding my true path. Her surprised, "Wait, what?" echoed long after I'd established my limits. It wasn't betrayal that shocked her. It was seeing the man she undervalued standing firm. She assumed we could survive in perpetual dysfunction, that I'd bend to her chaos. But she learned something straightforward. Respect is mutual and can't be demanded. Once it's gone, it doesn't come back. Nor does a man who chooses to live his truth.